So in this video here, we're just going to go through using the monitoring tab within GEDO Office. In this instance, I'm going to be using GEDO IMS data, but equally you can do the same thing with GEDO rec data if you've just been using the trolley position from an instrument rather than using IMS. Create an IMS project. If this was you just starting off in the field, what you could do is you could bring in your reference points here, and then you could export the project to GEDO IMS. When you're using it in the field, it's basically just the same as doing within GEDO IMS is doing an alignment for tamping. The only thing is you're just not selecting an alignment. So basically you're just going into the absolute track survey. Within your file you'll have your reference points in there selected, but you won't select an alignment. And then your line, you would probably name it something sensible like the date, or the date and then the time for whatever run you were doing for your monitoring. Maybe the first one you do before, you would call that the datum, something like that. For this one, I'm just going to import some measurements here. It'll just process as normal, so create an analysis. So usually the first run you ever done prior to works would be called the datum, so we'll call it the datum. We might actually just create the other ones here, so then it could be the next one in line, so it could be the next date, or the date of your first measurements. Then if you were doing it daily, create another one. Just so you can define them a bit easier. And we'll just process these ones here. You would just do your usual checks just to make sure everything's fine. Just process the next two as well. So now that these are processed, I'm just going to go to the monitoring tab. I'm going to create a new one. You basically keep all your different measurements within the one, basically down to a track probably. So we're just going to call this one, say it's a downline that we've been monitoring. And what it's going to look for here is going to look for your reference. So I'm just going to take the datum analysis and drag it in here as my reference. And then what you would then do is you would then take your days, your different ones, and you're going to drag them over where it says downline and add them in. So you would obviously do this one at a time. As you were doing it, you would be building it up over the time of your monitoring schedule. And what it will do then is it will create an analysis basically between your reference datum and between your latest measurement run. It'll give you the position, it will give you a lateral offset, elevation, a cant, and a gauge. If you go to the settings, you can change the way it calculates it out. So if you do it by axis, basically it'll be the centre axis of the track, and it will use the reference rail for height. If you do the centre, then it's basically the 3D position in the centre. Left or right, it'll be the 3D position in the centre and the height of the left rail, or the height of the right rail. So you probably likely do axis or even just track centre. Your point distance, usually most of the time it'll probably be over 3 metre centres. You can change that and update it, and it'll basically derive any of the data in between. You've also got the graphics tab here, so you can see your information graphically as well as you go through it. So if I drag in if we were to just build this up over time, drag in the next one. Again, we can now see from a second against the datum. And if we go and we select the actual monitoring tab as a whole, we'll see how it builds up over time. So we'll be able to see the first readings against the datum and the next readings against the datum. And if you go to graphics, you'll see a graphical overlay of how they compare. So you can see any different comparisons between the two sets of measurements over time. Probably the only thing really that the monitoring tab is missing is twists. But what you can do is if you go to reports, you can create user-defined reports as well for these, but If you go and you can use the relative track report, you can drag that data in there from the first. It'll ask you for a short chord and a long chord, so it gives you two options. It's up to yourself. If you were doing 3 metre and 10 metre centres, you might want to go, it's just for your verse, you might want to go 6 and 20 for your full chord lengths. And your twist calculation, really the important one, calculated over 3 metres. And you'll get those the information here basically through the whole data set, so you'll see the change as it goes through. It also includes your measurements at your control points as well there, which you can move. You'll get your cant here, which is listed in meters for this. Your twist, sorry, in meters, and the twist is in a percentage, so you could take that out in an Excel spreadsheet, the twist, and just calculate it as a ratio. With any of these reports that you create, you've got the option to export them out. You can either export them out as a CSV file or a PDF. Likewise, with your monitoring as well here, good option to select on individually or select them as a group. And again, you can export as a CSV file or a PDF. It'll ask you for a scale, a plot, paper size, and it'll ask you to set some of the minimum and maximum values for the tables. Just hit OK and just accept that, and you can see it creates a report here in PDF format.